G'day, I'm Scott Phillips and welcome back to session number 4 of Financial Literacy Week. Thank you for being with me. It is great to have you spend a bit more time with us, with me. Another half an hour today, the 4th in the 5 sessions of Financial Literacy Week. Here's a quick tease, by the way. Tomorrow is going to be a supersized Q&A session. It was originally going to be half an hour, and our marketing guy said to me yesterday, might need to be an hour. So here's the thing, whether it's an hour or half an hour, I'm going to answer a lot of questions tomorrow if you bring them to me. If you don't bring them to me, I'm not going to answer any questions because there's none to answer. I'm kidding. There's been some. I've asked a couple of people already. Just hold fire on those questions. We've captured them and we'll be answering them tomorrow, but that's tomorrow. Today is it the funnest one? Yeah, I think this is probably the one I'm most looking forward to of all of the 5 sessions. Maybe tomorrow will be better, actually, if the Q&As are great. So we'll find out what questions we get. But today is where I get to paint a picture. I paint a picture of a bright and prosperous future, hopefully for almost everybody watching, a realistic expectation. I'm not in the business of creating false hope. I'm not in the business of making stuff up. I'm going to spend a little bit of time chatting with you about how to create financial freedom. We've done a lot of what I call eat your broccoli over the last 3 days, right? I spent a lot of time telling you about budgeting, a lot of times telling you about spending, a lot of time telling you about what you should and shouldn't do with your money. I don't resile from any of that, but I am aware it was a bit drudgery, a bit trudgy, a bit kind of, drag yourself through the treacle. It's not fun. I desperately hope it's useful. I hope you've been able to get a better rate already. If you have, let me know in the comments. I'll open the comments here in front of me. Let me know if you've already grabbed a better rate. Let me know who you grabbed the better rate from, what you managed to save if you have that information handy, not in dollars, but if you got a better rate in your gas or electricity, maybe you've already started looking for a better mortgage, maybe you've realized what the opportunities are to save some money, free up some cash for that brighter financial future that we just mentioned. Right. What is financial freedom? I said on Monday, financial freedom for me is about choice. It's about simply being able to do not everything I want to, because there's a lot of things I'd love to do with millions of dollars, but I'm not going to have those, but having the choices that money provides. I'm not one of those people who wants to die with the most cash in the bank account, right? If you're in it for that, that's just pure ego and self-satisfaction. And I guess if that's what you want to do, go for it. It's not my thing. I want to have enough money so I can make some choices. I can choose to work less or not work at all. I can choose to travel. I can choose to spend money and time on and with people I love. I can go places I want to go. You may know I'm pretty partial to an outback road trip. I've done one every year, I think for the last 4 or 5 years. We've gone bush somewhere or other. I want to do more of that. I want to go around Australia. I want to do all that kind of fun stuff. And you can do that on a shoestring for sure, but I'd like to do it with money, and I'd like to be able to do it without needing to work for that. How do I do that? By achieving financial freedom. Also too, not as much as you might think. The combination, we'll talk a little tiny bit about the tax advantages of investing in shares in a second, but the dollar value you need in shares to provide a very decent income, maybe supplemented by a pension, maybe not, certainly superannuation, we will talk about in a minute. You'd be surprised how little you actually need. Plenty of people say, oh, you need $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 million. You really, really don't. And so I want you to be encouraged by the fact that the average person with a little bit of diligence, and in the absence of bad luck, you don't need luck necessarily, but you have some bad luck, I suppose. Life can really throw you some curveballs. And again, I'm not a prosperity kind of guy, right? I'm not starting from a view. Everyone should be able to do this. Everyone should be wonderful. If you don't, it's your fault. It's absolutely not the case. What I am saying is if you do make the right decisions, do the right things, use a bit of common sense and put time, effort, and compounding, it's a word I'll come back to, on your side, you will be in a very, very, very good position, I think. And a real opportunity to enjoy that financial freedom that we discussed. Now, let's talk about saving and investing. Savings is putting some money aside. So it's taking the cash and saying, I'm going to put that over there so it's there if I need it. Investing is sending that money out to work. So one is putting money aside, the other one is putting money to work. And that's the key differential, because with saving, you're kind of, I'll say hoarding, I don't mean hoarding in a bad way. You're kind of putting it aside saying, it's there if I need it. It's under the rock, it's under the proverbial mattress. Please don't put your money under a mattress. It's there if I need it. I can go and grab it if something goes wrong, if I need that money for something. When you invest your money, you are saying, I'm going to put that money aside, a different place, because I want it to pay me. I want my money to work. I want money to make money. That's the idea of investing, right? The very idea of compounding is I put $1 over there. I want to be worth more than $1 at some point in the future, and hopefully a lot more than $1 well into the future after that. That's the beauty of compounding. That's the idea of investing. So we talked a lot about saving yesterday, a little bit about it on Tuesday, putting that money aside for a rainy day, putting that money aside to cover living expenses if you are out of work, or if something goes wrong with the car, your washing machine blows up. Having the readies to grab and use for that purpose, really, really important. The rainy day fund, the emergency fund, call it what you will. That's what that money is all about. The next lot of money we talked about having separate accounts. Remember we said a high return account for your rainy day fund and a separate high return account where I said I want you to put, once you've filled your rainy day account, I want you to put 10% of your income in that investing bucket so you can have your money make you money. That's the real value. That's the investing bucket we've talked about. And that's where your money is sent out to work. A good thing, by the way, your money makes money often when you're asleep or doing something else. If you own shares in Woolies, for example, I don't, you may. Every time someone goes to a Woolworths shop, you make some money. When you're asleep, whether you're awake, whether you're at work, whether you're out playing with kids or at the park with friends, your money's making money. The people are working on your behalf. You own part of that business. And that's the beauty of investing itself. So I've painted you, I think, the how, the mechanism for that. What I want to talk to you now is about the compounding itself. And I want to share with you a simple thing called the rule of 72, 7-2. You may have heard of it before. If you have, great. Enjoy the retelling. If you haven't, sit down and listen because it's really quite cool. The rule of 72 is a nice little neat mathematical trick to let you work out what compounding will do for your money. And essentially, it's not perfectly accurate across every single number, but it's a really, really nice rule of thumb. If you take the return you're getting, the annual return, the annual compound return, it can be interest, it can be dividends, it can be capital growth, whatever it is, and you divide that into 72, you get the number of years it takes you to double your money. So very simply, and again, very roughly, if you get 7% a year, your money will double roughly every 10 years. Why? 72 divided by 7 is 10. If you get 12%, 72 divided by 12, your money will double every 6 years or so. If you get, again, do the maths right, 6%, you would take you 12 years. That's the way the maths roughly works. It doesn't need to work exactly because the idea is trying to give you a sense of how you can think about your returns. Now, I'll tell you about the rule of 72 for two reasons. One, it's a really cool mathematical trick. It's nice to know. The second is, if you think about how you can compound your money, it'll help you understand how quickly, how significantly that money will grow. I mentioned on Monday, I think it was, that there's a great chart out from Vanguard over the last 30 years, 30 years. If you'd invested 10 grand, and this is as of July 30 last year, so 2023, if you'd invested $10,000 in 1993, 10 grand, 30 years later, $130,000, 13 times your money. Now, I don't know about you. If I get 120 grand for free, if I get 13 times my money for just putting the money away and coming back 30 years later, I would take it, and I would take it tomorrow. No matter how old you are. Now, you may not have 30 years left. I hope you all do. I hope you all live forever, but we may not. Conceptually, though, the alternative is not to do it at all and not have anything. So whether you get the full 30 years, whether you get 20, 25, whether you get 45, really, really worth doing. And again, remember, that's one amount of money invested once. Not money invested regularly every year for that 30 years. One amount invested once and left alone. Nothing else happens to it other than just sits there and waits for you to come and collect the cash. So that's the value of compounding. The 10 grand became 130 grand. What did you do? Nothing. There was no work. You didn't have, literally nothing. You just sat there and waited and turned up again, opened the letterbox 30 years later, $130,000 waiting for you. I say that because that's the value of compounding. Think about that chart. It kind of goes up and to the right? Really nice upward sloping line. If we go back to the rule of 72, the stock market average, depends on the year, depends on the index, call it about 9% a year on average, right? So no promises, no guarantees, no predictions, on average, about 9% a year. Now let's do the maths. If you get 9% a year, 9 into 72, 8 years. So you double your money every 8 years on average if you get 9% a year. Now, again, I say it's an average. Some returns will be -5, some are +15, some are 6, some are 12. Overall, on average, about 9% per year. If you get that for an extended period of time, you can use your fingers. I need 3 or 4 of them. to work out how your money is going to go. If it doubles every 8 years, let's start with, make it really simple, $1,000, right? Because one is easy to double for me. I'm a simple man. If you start with one, after the first 8 years, you've got two. But it doesn't go from 2 to 3, it goes from 2 to 4. From 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32. If your money doubles 5 times, again, remember the maths, that'll take 40 years, not nothing. If it doubles 5 times, $1,000 becomes, remember, 2, 4, 8, 16, $32,000. Start with 10 grand, $320,000. Add money regularly. You can see how this math starts to work. And the sheer power of compounding, when it's put in your favor, can be phenomenal. Now, compounding works in reverse too. We talked about credit cards. The banks get that value if you don't pay your credit card off, right? That's why I hate credit cards. I desperately hate personal interest on personal loans, consumer loans, right? Because it just eats away at your money, eats away at your purchasing power, really puts you behind the 8 ball. But if you can go from 1 to 32 in 40 years, now, again, if you're 65 watching this, I hope you get to 105. You may not. You might draw down some of that money in retirement. The maths doesn't say everyone can have everything forever. What I'm trying to do is illustrate the sheer power of compounding over time. By the way, if you're 40, you're probably going to live to 80. I said that the other day too. If you're 50, you'll probably live to 90. You go very close to it. So don't for a second think that compounding is only for the 25-year-olds or the 18-year-olds. Yeah, like I wish I'd started at 18 as well, don't get me wrong. But starting from wherever you are, letting compound do it. Even if you go from 1 to 16 times your money still. Again, remember that power is really, really clearly evident and available to you just by simply taking the opportunity to do that. So that's the opportunity I want to present you with. And that's money making money, right? You save a couple of bucks, you put it in the bank, you might get 2 or 3% interest. You might use it, you might not. By the way, none of this is inflation adjusted either. Should you adjust for inflation? Sure. But again, if you save nothing, you got to pay inflation with nothing. So you can do either calculation, but the point remains, making or using your money to make money is far, far, far more useful. And the benefit of compounding is phenomenal. Now, we can't really do it here. It's not very, it's a visual thing rather than in graphs and charts and stuff. But imagine if you went from 1 to 32 1 year. Next year, you add another $1,000 and it goes to 32 grand as well. Now, yes, you've got to wait an extra year, but now you've got 64 grand for starting with 2. Imagine you started with 4. Okay, now you're $132,000. Imagine you started with 10, and so on and so forth. If you add money regularly, it is going to do a whole lot of work and be very, very good for you as an investor, as a person, right? You're an investor because that's what you're doing, but I don't want to pretend this is just for the air quotes investors. Everyone can do this. If you can save a buck, you can invest that dollar. I said the other day, you can invest from a couple of dollars these days. You can start the compounding journey working for you, and I think you should. Again, remember, throw some questions and comments down the bottom. We've already got one here. The Finance and Property Survival Guide. That's pretty cool. I like that. Thank you. I want to talk about the process of investing, because I just said before, I don't want to talk about investors with a air quotes investor, like somehow you're a person who's got a particular skill or you've done a particular job. I happen to do this for a quid. Many people don't, most people don't, and I'm glad, because frankly, while I like pushing numbers around, it doesn't create much. I'm glad people are out there as nurses and fireys and coppers and builders and everything else that everyone else is doing, teachers, whatever you're doing, I'm glad you're doing that to add value to our economy, because I can't just push numbers around, right? I'm not exactly putting rockets in a space or saving people. So you're out there doing your job. You can be, and you are an investor. I'll get back to super. Yeah. You are an investor. You can be an investor, and it's not hard at all. So what I want to spend a little bit more time on is breaking down the how. I'm not going to give you an entire how-to guide. This is not the place. This is not the time. This is not what this is about. What I want to tell you about is that you can be an investor starting effectively today. Maybe tomorrow, maybe it takes 24 hours to set up your bank account. You can be an investor right now, and I think you should be an investor right now. The hardest part of investing is getting started. Sounds like a cliche. Sounds like one of those journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. It's both. It is and it's not. So it is absolutely cliche, because that's absolutely true. You probably don't remember. I don't think I remember the first time I logged on to internet banking and made my first account transfer or BPay payment or FPOS payment. I don't think I can remember that. I used to have a passbook. That's how old I am. But I don't remember the first time I used internet banking. The reason I bring that up is because buying and selling shares is no more difficult than internet banking. A little bit of different jargon to kind of just get your head around. But again, that was the same with banking, right? What's this account? What's that account? How do I transfer money? What's BPay again? What code do I put where? It's really, 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 really simple. And I don't want you to be discouraged from investing because it seems like a thing that other people do, or there's this jargon kind of wall that I can't get over. You absolutely can. You absolutely should. I will help you do that. So you are and can be an investor. You should be an investor. You should get started. I'm going to give you 3 quick ways to get started. 3 individual brokers for what it's worth, and just we have no relationship with any of them. So I've done a bit of work with Sharras, one of the ones I'm going to mention. I've had the Perla guy on our podcast that we do. I happen to use Comsec as a customer. They're the 3 brokers I'm going to talk about, not because they're the only 3, not even because they're the best 3. They're the 3 I happen to use, and I'll tell you exactly about them so I can get you across that hurdle to get you started. You jump online, look up compare stockbrokers, look up stockbrokers in Australia and see what comes up. Or I'm going to give you some ideas because sometimes that's even too daunting and I don't want you to get bamboozled by the number of options and the range of choices and not sure how to make that decision. Comsec, Commonwealth Securities. I've used that for more years than I should probably admit. I want to say 30 years. I've had a Comsec account and maybe for a little bit longer. It was originally TD Waterhouse. They were bought by Comsec. That's how I ended up being a Comsec customer. They've been great. I'm sure I've made them a fortune because I've never moved and they haven't had to give me anything special to stay or whatever. I have no relationship with them past other than being a customer. You can join up now online in a simple number of steps. You can link, and you should, a separate savings account, which you only use for your investing. Again, we don't want to touch that money ever. That's for future you, not for now, not for a pair of jeans, not to fix the car. You've already saved your rainy day account, not to buy the TV. You're not going to use it for that. This is for investing for future you. You join Commonwealth Bank, you're Comsec, you just create a separate investing account and you start placing your trades. You put some money in that account and you say to Comsec, please buy me 10 shares of Woolies, 1 share of Coles, doesn't matter what it is, 2 shares of BHP. And all of a sudden, they will make that transaction. 2 days later, the money comes out of your bank account and you're a shareholder. It's literally as simple as that. Now, there are a couple of things you need to do. You need to fill out some paperwork when that's done, so you got the tax file number and stuff like that. But again, it's like internet banking. Really, 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 really simple. Please don't be put off by the process of opening a new account. Just go and do it. Perla, I mentioned. I have a Perla account. The guys do a great job. They're all about slow building of wealth, right? Every other broker, a lot of other brokers are out there saying, trade this, trade that, trade this, trade that, be a master of the universe, make a lot of money, do all that sort of good stuff. Don't do that. Invest slow, steady. I think they call themselves the boring stockbroker or something. I can't remember now. They're good guys. They do the right thing. They are there trying to help you build your wealth over time. Again, super easy to open an account. I opened an account for my young bloke. We put some money in there regularly for him. Hopefully he's not watching this. He doesn't know that yet. And that's hopefully going to be invested in stuff that helps him get a head start in life. That's part of why I invest, right, to help the kids. The third one is Sharesies. I have a Sharesies account for my young bloke. I have done some work with them, as I said, so full disclosure. But the great thing with shares is you can buy fractional shares. You can buy a small fraction of a Woolworths share using Sharesies. And you can sort of slowly build up that money that way. And if you're someone who's going to add really small amounts regularly, or you've got kids who are doing it, Sharesies is a great way to do it. They're all about kind of the club idea, being part of the same process together. Perla and Sharesies is kind of the same vibe, frankly. They don't like be saying that about each other because maybe they want the business, but both good guys, both good businesses do a great job. So those are the 3 I have accounts with. That's why I'm mentioning those 3. Why do I have accounts with them? Because I like what they do. And for each of those purposes, they were right for me and right for my circumstance. So if you want to find a recommendation, check out those 3. Pick one of them. I don't care which one. Pick all of them if you want to, but no, don't do that. Pick one of them, choose your broker, and then set up your account. As soon as you've done that, you are an investor. And then you can fund your account with money, start making your trades, and all of a sudden, you're off and away. As I said, remember that 1 to 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. I'm going to mention that a lot of times because I want you to be able to visualize that curve. By the way, after 32, you go 64. If you have 48 years, you're 64 grand. If you have 56 years, or 128 grand. Imagine putting aside some money for a 10-year-old. Imagine how much they're going to have by retirement if you put that money away for them now. I don't imagine there's any 10-year-olds watching. If there are, go back to school. You should be in school. The opportunity is huge. I hope I'm really trying to push hard on this one. I don't want anyone to think I should do that. I must get around to it. Please do it now. So this video is over. Jump on one of those websites, Comsec, Perla, Sharesies, look at them all, compare them all. Look at any others, CMC's out there, NAB Trade's out there, plenty of others. But have a look and grab a broker. You are an investor. You already are. I'll get to that. You need to start investing. You need to start investing now. Hopefully, you've already saved some money. Hopefully, what I said yesterday, you're getting a better rate and you'll have some money. Hopefully, if you've got $10, start, just literally start. Whatever you got. What have you got in your wallet? What have you got in the bank account? Find 10, 20, $50. Open the account, fund the account, get going. Why? Because the second trade is going to be so much easier, so much quicker, so much more simple. The best thing for my young bloke, I opened the Sharesies account that we've got, and I said, look, mate, here's how much your shares have gone up. And there's $190 in the account, I think. It's all he's got, right? Because he puts a bit of pocket money in and we match his investing. But it's gone up $40, right? Now it's over, I don't know, 18 months or something, a year, 2 years. But he's seen that. He's getting there. It's like, oh man, I can do that. Look, I've made money for nothing. The power of that, Dire Straits told us about that. The power of that is phenomenal. Please, please, please. Start now, start now, start now. What's the old quote that's saying about, starting has power and magic in it or something? That's what I want you to have a think about. Just checking the questions. Yes. Kay, thank you. Thank you. Kay mentioned dividends. So the other beautiful thing and the other absolute must, promise me you'll do this. The reason for setting up a separate account for your investing money to go into is when your companies pay dividends, they're going to come into the bank accounts over the next couple of months. It goes into that account, right? Don't put your dividends into your transaction account. Why? Because you'll spend them. The compounding thing works because companies make more money and are worth more, but also when they pay you dividends, you use that money to buy more shares. I met a bloke. I'm at the Gold Coast office of the Motley Fool. I won't mention his name, and I won't tell you kind of many more about him, so I don't want to identify him accidentally. He was downstairs. I went to get a coffee. He said to me, I want to tell you a story. This literally happened yesterday or Tuesday, either way, really recently. He said, I want to tell you a story. I used to work for a bank. When that bank floated, I got some shares. The bank let me borrow money to buy those shares, and I've always used the dividends to buy more shares. Now, he started with 300 shares way back. He's now got 3,000 shares, just, I believe, if the story is correct, from reinvesting the dividends and buying more shares with those dividends as they came out. So not only has the value per share gone up, but he's got more shares. And that's the beauty of getting this compounding curve, right? Should get some sort of graphic overlay at some point so we can see it. The power of reinvesting your dividends is an absolute must. So please, that's why you need a separate account. Not only do you put your money in it, don't touch it. When your dividends come in, they get paid into that account, and you buy more shares with that money. That's really important. Thank you, Kay. I did mean to mention that, and I forgot. So thank you for mentioning it. Robin, super. I'm going to get to that in a second. Greg, you're trying to buy a home. I get it. Absolutely. Where the savings come from. Cool. I think I might do the savings come from tomorrow, Greg, but I will answer Robin's question. So where does that leave us? Let me check my notes. Right. What do you invest in? I'm a shares guy. I am a shares guy not because I'm paid to be a shares guy. I work here because I'm a shares guy. So it was the other way around, right? Some people say, well, of course you work for the Motley Fool. You guys recommend shares. Of course you would say that. Yeah, probably. But would I be here if I didn't think it was the right option? No. I didn't start as a shares guy. In fact, my old man said the share market was a casino. And that's what view plenty of people have, and I don't blame him or you if you think that. Because all you see is these numbers going up and down, up and down. You see the Alan Bonds and Christopher Skases, and you see the billionaires, and you kind of think, oh, man, that's for them over there. Or they're the smart money, we're the dumb money, we're going to get creamed here. We're going to get absolutely towed up because someone else is going to take my money and do something with it. I want to tell you that is not the case. Are there scumbags? Yes. Are there shysters? Yes, absolutely. Like in every other part of life. But if you're investing in shares, you're doing it properly. I will say the Motley Fool way. I'm not saying that as an ad, but we invest in businesses. We invest for the long term. We're not trying to day trade. We're not trying to get one over on somebody else. There's no trading systems or it's literally find great companies, buy great companies, hold great companies for as long as it makes sense. That simple. That's what I meant about the 10 grand that became 130. There was no trading in that. That was literally buy, do nothing for 30 years, come back. That's literally it, right? That's all that had to happen. So that's why I want to make the point that's why I'm a shares guy. Now, I'm a shares guy for a couple of reasons. One, property is fine. I had an investment property years ago. I had it with a mate. We sold it. I've invested in shares ever since. I would happily buy investment property tomorrow if I found an opportunity that was better than the shares opportunity I thought I could see. So I'm absolutely agnostic. Why? Because frankly, why would I care? I want to make money. I don't care how I make the money, right? I want to make the money. I want financial freedom. So I would invest in the thing that made most sense. Why do shares make most sense? This is not about shares necessarily. Let me take a step back. You can invest in shares. You can invest in property. You can leave your money in cash. You can invest in fine art, wine, cars, Beanie Babies, trading cards. I'm not going to say cryptocurrencies because I don't think you should. I don't think you should do some other stuff either, by the way. So maybe I should include it in that list. When it comes down to it, cash in the bank is going to win you a couple of percent. Super safe because it's government guaranteed. Not perfectly safe. The government could always default, but about as safe as you're going to get. So cash in the bank, really low rate, but the capital's pretty safe. Shares, riskier because individual companies will go bust sometimes. Share prices jump around all the time. Absolutely true. That's just the truth. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. I'm not going to tell you it's okay. I'm just going to say that's happened sometimes. There are ways to fix it, like diversification, like buying companies like making sure your money's not over-invested in a single company, and that diversification thing I mentioned before. You can build a portfolio such that you're not exposed to any one particular business. If all these goes broke and you've got coal shares, you're fine. If all these goes broke and you've got BHP shares, whatever, right? The benefit of diversification, and by the way, you can do it really cheaply, something you can't do with property, is huge. Here's the thing about property. I'm not going to get into a full debate about this. Maybe we can talk about it tomorrow if you want. Property as an investment, not as an owner-occupier. For your own home, very different story. I think you should buy your own home if you can. As an investment, the price can only go up if Australian wages go up effectively. There's other ways you can kind of do bits and pieces around the edges. Long term, someone's got to pay the rent. That rent can only go up as fast as their income, roughly. So that's your limiting factor over time. Why has it happened in the last 30 or 40 years? It's gone up faster than that. A whole lot of stuff we don't have time to get into right now. Suffice it to say, I don't expect the future growth of property to be the same as the past growth for those very specific material reasons. Now, why do I think it's going to be different with shares? Very simply because property as a market is the entire Australian landmass. It's the entire Australian property market, right? There is no subset of that. If there is, you can't trade it. Think about the ASX. There's 1,500 companies. There's probably 1 million small businesses in Australia. Sort of at the top of the top of the top, the ones that have already proven themselves, that have been successful, that have had long histories, that are big, that have big market opportunities. It's a subset. So that group can keep growing and take effectively market share, take profit away from the other guys. So we're looking at a subset only. Is it true that a subset of property could do better than the rest of property? Yes, it's 100% true. Which subset? I don't know. The ASX has already kind of got the precondition for the best of the best and some rubbish to be on the ASX. So I expect that, and that's been, by the way, the growth of shares, I mentioned the 9% per annum, that's 120 something years of history. So I'm not saying just the last 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, but right back to 1906 or 4 or something. That's been the growth of the Australian share market. Have there been things happening during that period? Yes. But overall, 120 years history, it's a pretty good starting point for me. So, but you can do shares, you can do property, whatever. I mentioned shares before. A couple of great things with shares. Firstly, when companies make more money, the prices tend to go up. You're not relying on people's incomes going up necessarily. If Woolies take customers off Aldi, Woolies' profit goes up. If more people shop at Woolies rather than, IGA or something else, BHP, if it sells more iron ore, there's ways they can grow that don't require the overall economy to grow at the same rate. Whereas property is the economy because it's everyone in the property markets, everyone in the country, everyone in the economy. There's fundamental limits to that. So shares can grow. The share price goes up if and when companies make profit generally. In the short term, super volatile. Long term, price tends to follow value. Secondly, regular dividends every 6 months. A lot of companies, not every company should pay dividends. And if they do, they have those franking credits. Now, if you watch politics for any length of time, you will know that's a hot topic. But $1 worth of dividends is worth more if it's a fully franked dividend. Again, I don't want to get the detail yet. I'll do that some other time. Worth more. A fully franked dividend, $1, is worth more than $1 of property rent, and it's worth more than $1 of bank interest. Why? Because it comes with a tax credit. And so it's a much more preferable way to do it. That, in short, is why I'm a shares guy. I think the share market will do better than the property market over time. I like getting regular income, and I like the tax advantages. Whether you go the franking credit refunds, that's entirely different. I'm not in the zero tax regime, so I don't get the refunds. The franking credits themselves offset the company's already paid on my behalf. So it's a really attractive way to invest. It's why I invest in shares. As I said, if I get up an investment property tomorrow that's even better, I'll take it. I'm not for a second biased about this, because why should I be? Why should I take a lower return in shares if I get a higher return in property? I'd be mad to, so I'm not going to. But for me, my starting point is the dynamics of the share market are so attractive, I think it's worth doing. Now, how long have I got? I'm finished almost. All right. If you don't want to pick shares, great. There are exchange-traded funds out there. You can invest in the market with one trade, a fund manager who is known and respected and regulated, who will invest across the market for you. I own shares in a Vanguard Australian shares ETF, an exchange-traded fund. Vanguard is a not-for-profit fund manager. They've been around for 50 plus years. They invented index ETFs for a tiny, tiny, tiny fee per year. You can invest in the entire ASX and get that. If you don't think about which companies to buy, how to buy them, where to buy them, just do that. Buy a range of ETFs, a couple of ETFs. We might talk about that tomorrow, actually. I've been told there's an offer tomorrow. So I do have something I said I wasn't selling earlier in the week. Turns out I am, but you will be shocked by the price. I'm talking about stupid shocked by the price. So stick with me for that one because it's worth it. So yes, apologies for that earlier in the week. I didn't think we were. It turns out we are, but it's very, very worthwhile. So ETFs, if you want to, you can invest. I promised I'd talk about superannuation. Bottom line, superannuation is a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic opportunity to invest. Why? A couple of reasons. Firstly, it's compulsory. I mentioned putting 10% aside. Your boss is doing that for you. It's 11.5% come July 1. Putting that money aside for you, spectacularly great. Secondly, it's diversified. Thirdly, you can't touch it. So it's going to be there when you get to retirement. There's problems with the system. There's things I'd change. It is a spectacularly good system to have. Really, really great place to be. I promised I'd answer Robin's question. Focusing on super is great because it's tax effective, Robin. Wonderful. Paying down the mortgage, great idea because it means if something happens to you, you've got more equity in your home, you can redraw it, or at least you have effectively forced savings by paying off the mortgage. Those are brilliant. I'm not going to tell you not to do any of those things at all. The only thing I'd add is super is restricted until your retirement age or preservation age. If you wanted to retire earlier, have access to money earlier, I personally have maximized my super and I have money outside super so that I can have those options. If you don't want to or can't do that, super is spectacular. Paying off the mortgage is a great idea. If you do nothing more than that, but you do it, here's the thing, the 10% I talked about, make sure you're paying extra into super, extra into the mortgage. As long as you're putting the extra somewhere, then you're having it's a fantastic way to get ahead. Hey, I'm going to take a couple extra minutes. I'm supposed to finish now, but I want to answer some of these questions. So if you want to go, feel free to go. I will try and touch this stuff off. So, Greg asked about where do the savings come from. I'll try and address that tomorrow. Kay says, how old do children have to be to get shares? So I have 2 granddaughters I can do this for. Kay, that is awesome. The law is weird. It's strange, not difficult. 18, you're under 18, you can't sign a contract. I don't know any stockbroker that will let you have an account for kids in their own name, but it's really, really simple. All you do, and you've told us your name here, so I will use your name. Let's say it's Jimmy and Jane Worthington. You can have Jimmy Worthington, Kay Worthington is your name, so Kay Worthington account, and in brackets after that, as trustee for Jimmy Worthington. In other words, the account is formally in your name, but it's for their benefit. And if you do it that way, get a tax file number for them. If you can't do it, get their parents to do it. Give them a tax file number, put that on the account. The official account name is you. You're the custodian of the account, but you do it for their benefits. Absolutely doable. Highly recommend it. I think I can say this. Maybe I won't. Family members I've done something similar for family members. I won't name who they are or more detail than that. Some family members have done the same thing. You can put it in your own name, by the way, and transfer it when they get old enough or sell the shares and give them the money. It kind of works the same way. But if you do it as trustee for the child, then the tax ramification should be, there should be no ramifications to transfer that money to them once they become 18. So I hope that makes sense. A little bit detailed, a little bit difficult. Actually, not difficult at all. Just something you need to know. But it's really, really easy to do. Very, very simple, very straightforward. Paul, what is a dividend reinvestment program? Love it. Is it worth doing? Yes. I have a longer answer to that question, Paul, which is if you're an individual investor and you want to choose your own shares, I personally don't take the DRP, the dividend reinvestment plan, because I want to choose where the money goes. For people who aren't as nerdy as me, it's a wonderful idea. If you like the company a lot and you like it because you bought the shares, then having more shares in that company seems to make sense to me. So yes, it's a fantastic thing. If you don't want to take the money and reinvest it manually, DRPs are a wonderful thing to do. I gave the example before of the bank shares went from 300 to 3,000 shares over a very long time, 40 odd years, because those dividends were reinvested and bought more shares. So yes, a great, great thing to do. If you you just know you have to still pay tax on the dividends. So if you reinvest the dividends in dollars, you still have a tax bill. So make sure you got the money aside for that. You may want to reinvest half of those dividends or take the whole thing as cash and reinvest them manually. But if you do, DRPs are wonderful because it means it just gets done for you. You don't have to think about it over time. The number of shares you own just kind of tickles up and up and up and up. And as I said, with this gentleman I met downstairs only the other day, a lot of that happened entirely in the background without having to think about it. And all of a sudden, 40 years later, he goes, wow, look at this, look what I've got now. So it's super, super worthwhile and great thing to do. Thank you for the questions, guys. Thank you for spending an extra couple of minutes with me. I hope it's been useful. I hope I've given you some incentive. Remember the rule of 72. Remember the 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. Remember that. Keep that in your head. If that's not inspirational, I don't know what is. I probably can't help you. I hope it's useful. I hope it's going to be inspiring. I hope I have given you enough to today, if you haven't already, open a brokerage account with a stockbroker. Pick one of the ones I've talked about. Google others. Do it for the kids, as Kay's going to do. Seriously, please help them out. If you can help yourself out, help the kids out. If you can't, again, no judgment from me, but I've hopefully shown you the value of doing it, the value of starting early, the value of just starting. Please don't let the obstacle of getting started become a millstone. Please push through, start, and once you started, adding is so much easier. The journey of 1,000 miles